Hey guys, welcome to this chapter of the Garden Game Plan with Sustainable Stace. This is all about backyard abundance. And chapter by chapter, we're going to offer all these different insights and how-tos so that you feel comfortable, that you feel equipped. It's the closest I can do to reaching through the camera and being right there with you. And this is one of the first big steps on getting going on a garden game plan for backyard abundance. You want to figure out the size of your garden beds, how many of them you're going to build, and I think it's really critical to find a way to do raised garden beds that are elevated up above the grade of the ground. It means it's easy to go get soil and compost, whatever's going to make your growing medium, and move it in there easily. It means you're not going to have to rototill or dig anything. In fact, all the grass where we're going to be setting up the raised beds, none of it's going to be turned over or dug. It's going to be very non-invasive how we start to garden here. So I just want to get you thinking about these raised garden beds. We've already talked about orienting your spot based on your shade, your sun, and all of that. So now we're ready to talk about what materials you could use to make a bed, and I'm going to give you 3 different options. And as we roll right through this garden game plan, we're going to have one bed made out of each of the 3 options. There's pros and cons to each based on aesthetics, based on where you're situated, based on how deep you want your bed to be, and money, what your budget is as well, okay? So we're just going to get warmed up and talk about that. And before I hit that, we're going to talk about the size of your garden beds. And I think the size of the garden beds is critical because there's a bunch of really key reasons why I'm choosing to suggest the size of the beds that I am, which is a 5-foot by 12-foot rectangle. The depth of it anywhere from a foot deep to maybe 8 inches deep, and that'll depend on the materials you choose, but 5 feet wide is 1.5 meters, and 12 feet long is, about 4 meters. So a 1.5 by 4 meter rectangle, and we're going to do a total of 3 of them, and they're all going to fit in about 300 square feet, about 10 square meters, which is really 2 parking spaces or maybe a backyard patio so that you can get total abundance out of a tiny little area. First of all, I just want to explain to you guys why I've chosen 5 feet. So I've got a tape measure here. Just think about 5 feet, 1.5 meters, 60 inches, okay? It's a comfortable reach like that. Why 5 feet? There's some good reasons. When you go to buy materials, 4s and 8s and 12s are really easy in foot dimensions. So 10 foot, if you buy a 10-foot piece like this here, you cut it in half, you've got 2 5-footers. My other pieces are 12. So this wood right here, that's a whole rectangle garden bed right there. That's our least expensive, quickest to build garden bed. It's called resawn or 1 by 8. You could use 1 by 10, 1 by 12, 1 by 6, depending on how deep you want your garden bed to be. These are landscape ties. They're somewhat treated with a preservative. You can in some places find an eco tie which isn't preserved, so it'll decay quicker, but it won't have any risk of a preservative going into the soil. And then this here is landscape blocks, and you can see here, just prop them up, they're heavy, but they're hollow inside, okay? So that's called a split face because it's got a nice dressed front, but the other sides are just smooth, and they're got a nice little lid that fits on them as well. So we'll talk about that in a second. So back to 5 feet by 12 feet. Why Sustainable Stace? Why 5 feet by 12 feet? Why do I want my bed this wide? I'm gonna give you 3 reasons why. Number 1, the soil that goes inside these beds is sacred. You can't step on it. You can't compact it. You want easy access to it, and you want to access that soil by walking around your garden bed. So 5 feet is a nice width for most people to reach into the middle. It means you're only having to reach 2.5 feet from either side to get to your center row. So that's the first reason why a 5-foot wide bed. With a 5-foot wide bed, you can reach into the middle easily. If it was a 6-foot wide bed, a lot of people with shorter wingspans are going to have a hard time reaching in. Another reason why a 5-foot wide bed is great is that you're going to see as we get these things built and we put drip irrigation into them and we try to figure out putting rows in them. If you had a 4-foot wide bed, you'd probably only get 2 rows for planting. But I've found that when I go to a 5-foot wide bed, I get 3 rows for planting. So it's optimizing the space based on how your veggies are growing together. Now I'm going to put 3 drip lines down each bed. And if it's a small type of plant that we're going to grow on that drip line, I'll actually plant on both sides. Something like carrots, something like onions, you can actually have a drip line with plants on both sides, which means if you've got 3 drip lines and you plant small plants, you could actually have 6 rows of food growing in a 5-foot wide bed. So that's the second reason, right? You can reach in is the first reason, and you can grow 3 rows of food in a 5-foot wide bed. The third reason, and this relates to pest control, it relates to extending your seasons. Down the road, when we get these up and running, we're gonna have some PVC pipes that are gonna go over the bed if you want to use them to have a cloth row cover. It's also called remake cloth, or maybe plastic like a mini hoop house. And I've got videos about all that as well. And when you go and buy lengths of PVC pipe, they always come where I live in 20-foot lengths. And so to use that length the best, cutting a 20-footer into 3 even pieces, each piece will go over a 5-foot bed perfectly so there's no wasted material. So it's for hoop houses, so that you can optimize a way to extend your seasons and protect from pests. Because with a hoop house, you can grow a little later, you can grow a little earlier in the season, you can keep off all the birds if they're coming to eat berries or fruit and things like that. You can keep off a lot of things that are a problem. If you don't have good enough fencing or it's little micro pests, a cloth or a plastic cover is going to be great. So that's your first reason. You get 3 rows as your second reason, and your first reason is you can reach in. So that's why a 5-foot by 12-foot is your dimension you're going to use.